in your model, let's say you can convince all the psychiatrists and mental health providers in the country to sort of take this seriously and consider the metabolic consequences. How do you work somebody up? I mean, are there, before I think that a dietary intervention is going to work, what do I need? What information do I need to know? Am I doing some labs, testing their metabolic health, and then going from there and tailoring from there? How does that work for you?
So right now, those are the $1 million questions. And I want to see a sea change in the mental health field. And I want exactly those kinds of things that you just mentioned. As soon as somebody gets diagnosed with a mental disorder, I want to be running labs to try to understand what is causing this person's metabolic brain dysfunction. That's the way I think about it. So there's something going on with metabolism that's interfering with their brain function. And I would want to understand what that is. And so we might look at insulin resistance, for instance, and we have tons of research already existing, and some of it that I talked about a little bit ago, that shows that high levels of insulin resistance impair brain function and can even cause psychosis. It can cause depression. It can cause anxiety. So I'd want to know that, because that would be a really useful biomarker. And then if we put them on some diet, I would want to see if that's improving, because that would be really helpful to really help somebody fully recover. But there are rare things or less common things that can cause metabolic problems. So I'll give you 2 examples. So, and these are very well established. So this isn't speculation. So people who have low levels of thyroid hormone. Thyroid hormone is like one of the master metabolic hormones. And if you have low levels of thyroid hormone, you're more likely to be gaining weight, to get diabetes, and to be at risk for cardiovascular disease. So that's well established. But you're also more likely to develop mental disorders. Which ones? Pretty much depression is the one most people think of, but bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, Alzheimer's disease, and others are also associated with low levels of thyroid hormone. The treatment for that is replacing the thyroid hormone or putting somebody on a diet. And I know that there are at least case reports or anecdotes of people who say that their autoimmune thyroid disorder went away on a ketogenic diet or a carnivore diet or other diet. But I've also talked with some patients who have done ketogenic or carnivore diets and their autoimmune thyroid disorder did not go away. And so they will probably need thyroid hormone. And that's the way to cure or help improve their metabolism. Another common problem, or another maybe not so common problem, is vitamin B12 deficiency. So some people become vitamin B12 deficient because they're not eating enough animal sourced foods. So if you are a vegan, you are at high risk for B12 deficiency if you're not taking a B12 supplement. And people with vitamin B12 deficiency are more likely to develop all sorts of mental disorders and metabolic disorders. And they can sometimes develop very severe neurological disorders that can become permanent even. And the treatment for that is to make sure that they're getting enough B12. But there's another cause of B12 deficiency, which can be an autoimmune disorder. So there's this thing called intrinsic factor that your body needs to absorb vitamin B12. So some people are eating more than enough vitamin B12 in their food. They're eating a lot of meat, but they can't absorb it because of this autoimmune problem they've got. And those people would need vitamin B12 injections in order to solve their metabolic problem. So those are like a couple of rare things. And I would want to screen people for those. But the real answer, as you know, is the majority of metabolic problems can be solved through diet and other lifestyle interventions. That if you're eating a lot of crappy food, if you're not exercising at all, if you're not getting good sleep, you are going to be metabolically impaired. And the treatment for that is to restore all of those things. It's not just do a good diet. You also do have to be getting good sleep. You also do have to, you should be exercising somewhat. You might want to be getting some light in your eyes during the day and avoiding light at night. Like, just common sense things that all play a role in metabolism.
Why, just interestingly enough, because, you mentioned obesity is very commonly associated with mental health disorders. And do all diets, because, people will say it's just, it's basically a physics problem, calories in, calories out. If we put you in an energy deficit, you're going to lose weight. You can lose weight on a low fat diet. You can lose weight on a high fat diet. Does one seem to have more superiority than that? I know, because you're sort of biased towards a ketogenic diet. Could someone who has fairly severe bipolar disorder just go on a low-fat diet, lose weight, get thinner, and clear up their schizophrenia? Is there something unique to the ketogenic style diet, and what is it if so?
I believe there does seem to be something unique to the ketogenic diet, and the strongest basis that I have to say that is that the ketogenic diet, and maybe very low glycemic index diets, those in particular have been shown to stop seizures when nothing else does. And that's just a very clear-cut disease. Like, seizures are a real thing. We can measure them. They cause suffering. They can ruin people's lives. They can kill people, actually. So seizures are real. And yet a ketogenic diet and sometimes a very low glycemic index diet can stop seizures. There is zero evidence, none, that the Mediterranean diet or a low-fat diet or simply losing weight or a vegan diet or a vegetarian diet can stop seizures. There is none. There are no case reports. I personally am not aware of any anecdotes even of people saying, I went on a low-fat diet and my seizures stopped. But we have tens of thousands of people who had treatment-resistant seizures, and the ketogenic diet stopped those seizures. So there is, and we have, again, a lot of evidence to understand why and how that works. So a ketogenic diet or an extremely low carbohydrate diet, which would include a carnivore diet, is in some ways it mimics the fasting state in the human body. And the fasting state, although a lot of people think about going without food as a terrible thing, when people fast, it actually has a lot of healing potential. It stimulates this thing called autophagy, which is basically all the cells in your body start cleaning house, getting rid of old parts and, defective things and replacing them with new ones. And so very low carbohydrate and ketogenic diets tend to stimulate a lot of these processes, in a really easy to understand ways. Low carb, ketogenic, carnivore diets will improve insulin resistance. We know that.